Hey there! Welcome to another one of them videos where I just talk as opposed to reviewing a product. And I get very good feedback on these videos where I just talk about something that's on my mind. So I thought I would do another one. And today I would like to talk about drama in the pen world with two reasons. One, talking about why drama occurs, and two, talking about things you can do to mitigate drama, at least for yourself. And I guess that's a bit of the stoic in me coming out, but anyway, that's what I want to talk about. The reason I wanted to talk about that is twofold. And let me start off by saying, in this video, I'm not here to pick sides. I'm not here to defend any party. And I'm definitely not here to put oil in the fire because nobody is ever served by that. But the reason I want to do this video is twofold. Reason one, this morning when I woke up, I checked Instagram. And I saw a post by the B.R.E pen company stating that they have ceased, at least for the time being, all sales of Noodler's products because there was controversy, or as I would say controversy, over a label on a Noodler's ink that was considered offensive by some, anti-Semitic by some, and other people thought there was nothing wrong with it, based on the comments that I saw in that post. So that's part one. Part two is the recent issues with TWSBI, where TWSBI claimed that Narwhal, another pen company, had stolen their piston design, and that led to messages being sent out, or a message being sent out to retailers, where TWSBI said, if you do not stop to carry Narwhal, you can no longer carry TWSBI. This is the expurgated version of that whole story. Now, again, I won't pick sides, but let's talk about why drama occurs. I think the drama occurs because we have been hardwired to love drama. We love it. We thrive off of it. Some people more than others. I don't know why exactly, but we love drama. And I think we love drama because it helps us establish an in-group. As a psychologist, not a social one, but still, not a social psychologist, not like an antisocial, anyway. Social psychologists would probably say, well, in-group, out-group. When you're part of an in-group, let's say Honda drivers, then everyone else is part of the out-group because they're not Honda drivers, and as a result, you're right and they're wrong, and this is wrong with Ford, and this is wrong with Toyota, and this, etc. Right? Kia. Too bad it's a Kia. Now, I'm sorry, that's a Family Guy thing. That's how it works. You have an in-group and an out-group. And anything you can do to strengthen your in-group will be beneficial because you get closer together, right? Drama is a great way to establish an in-group. Did you read about TWSBI? Oh my God! It's that sort of thing that establishes an in-group, binds it together, and enforces you against the out-group, rightfully or wrongfully. Often wrongfully. In-group and out-group can get very ugly. And unfortunately, it's very hard to unify and actually create one group out of an in-group and an out-group again. You see this a lot in society. Don't mean to say anything super controversial, but think about vaccination versus non-vaccination. Woo! Or Biden versus Trump. Woo! It doesn't matter because you cannot unify these groups. It's not possible. I've tried, but I think it's not possible. And you see that more and more. Why do we see this more and more? Why do we see all this drama? Well, that I think is largely due to social media, which is ironic when I'm posting this on YouTube. Anyway, social media, I think, have done two things. Namely, magnification and also I'm looking for a word here. It's magnification of whatever happens, because even small things can be taken out of context and blown up. We have all seen this, we've experienced this, maybe not personally, but you've experienced this where it's in the news a lot, where someone says something and it's taken out of context, and before you know it, it's blown up and it's all over the world, and that person never intended to say that thing. And yet, that's what happens. That's what social media does. It's the magnification, but it's also the speed of spread, right? Goulet Pen Company and I are on almost opposite coasts. Almost opposite coasts of a large continent. And yet this morning I already saw this. Right? That's how fast news travels on social media. And I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm also not saying it's a bad thing, but it's a thing. It's something that happens. And that is another contributing factor, I think, to why we see drama. So now we have in-group, out-group, and we have social media as basically oil on the fire. Everything there spreads very quickly, maybe taken out of context, may become bigger than it actually is, etc. Now, as I said, I'm not implying anything here. I want to be absolutely clear. I'm not picking sides. I'm just saying that happens, I think. The second part of this video to me is, what do you do about it? Well, the first thing that I feel should go without saying, but it doesn't anymore in society, so I will say this. I think it is vital, absolutely imperative, when people say, I'm offended by this, to consider their viewpoint. And I'll give an example, starring myself. Okay? I teach psychology for a living. And at some point I taught a class, introductory psychology, and we talked about recreational drugs. And we talked about cannabis. And I made a couple jokes about cannabis. And afterwards the student came up to me and said, it actually made me uncomfortable when you did that, because I use cannabis medicinally, and I know that the things about deterioration in memory and such, but I'm really being carefully monitored by doctors. So that made me uncomfortable. It's very easy for a person like me to then say, yeah, well, you're wrong. But who benefits? I think that is fairly heartless. It's kind of useless. It's fairly pedantic to do that. So I said, well, I apologize. I'm sorry. I certainly did not mean to make you feel uncomfortable. And if I did that, then I'm sorry. That was never my intention. I was talking about recreational use of cannabis and not medicinal use of cannabis, but maybe I did not make that distinction clear enough. And for that, I'm sorry. I'll make sure that next class I'll address that issue. And he said, okay. And the next class I said, if I made anyone feel uncomfortable with the jokes I made, I'm sorry. That was certainly not my intention. I was merely distinguishing, in my mind, medicinal use, recreational use, and the side effects of this. It is a psychotropic substance, right? It does something to your brain. And I think that resolved the issue. You listen to what someone says. And even if their viewpoint is different from yours, you do not know where exactly they come from, what their background is, what they have been through, and why they feel the way they feel. And to dismiss that, just off the cuff, while you're wrong, is kind of silly. And I don't think it is a particularly refined thing to do either. Listen to what another person says. If we would listen more to each other, I think our society would be very different. But we don't listen to each other, and as a result, we got the society we deserve. Okay. That in my mind is point one. Listen to others. Don't dismiss it. And frankly, some of the things I saw on that Goulet post, again, I'm not trying to pick sides here, but to then post comments like, oh, this is virtue signaling, or oh, I don't think that has ever been a very constructive criticism. Okay. If you have something to say, then eloquently argue your point. Then, what do you do? How do you deal with drama? There's always been drama. There's drama in every type of hobby. There's drama at work. There's drama at school. It doesn't matter. It's there. But how do you deal with it? Well, one thing that I found very helpful is a statement by Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic, emperor actually, the emperor philosopher. paraphrasing a little bit, it is all right to not have an opinion about something. But people don't understand this anymore. This is radical news to people, because this day and age, we need to have opinions about everything. At least that's what we think. Every single thing you need to have an opinion about, right? In group, out group. The Honda drivers versus everyone else. Or people have massively evolved strong opinions about 2 versus 3-ply toilet paper. And then there are forums dedicated to it, and websites, and Twitter accounts, and Instagram accounts. A lot of the time, it doesn't matter. It's not relevant. It doesn't. You don't have to have an opinion about everything. Doesn't matter. It's okay. It's okay if you don't have an opinion. And sometimes people find it a relief. I tell them that they find that a relief, because we are so primed through social media. You have to be on point with everything. You have to have opinions about. But it's not true. It is okay to say, you know what? I really don't care about Twisby's piston, whether or not it's patented, whether or not it even can be patented, whether or not another company stole it. I just don't care. When you start to approach certain problems that way, I found that life becomes a lot easier. Now, having said that, there are certain topics where it is not appropriate to not have an opinion. When we get back to the example of noodlers and a potentially anti-Semitic label, I only say potentially because to some people it was, to other people it was not. And again, I'm trying to not pick sides here. What I will say is, that is an emotional topic. Anti-Semitism, rightfully so, is something people have very strong feelings about. And how could they not? Look at human history and look at how Jewish people have been treated, right? So that is a bit different. I find it very difficult to say you cannot have an opinion about that. But understand that there are various things you can do with your opinion. It's perfectly acceptable to say, I don't feel good about that label. I think the Goulets made the right decision. Or, I don't know what to do, but it doesn't sit well with me. I think that is okay. That doesn't mean you need to jump the barricades, start to set car tires on fire, and burn down a city because you disagree about a label on a bottle of fountain pen ink. I'm not trying to make light of anything or any viewpoint here. But all I'm trying to say is there are different ways to vent an opinion. And just like saying, that is virtue signaling, is not constructive, it is also not necessarily constructive to then start to riot in the streets over bottles of ink. But that there are strong feelings involved, I fully understand. In that case, I fully understand. Much more so than a piston mechanism. Who cares about that? So, although I think Marcus Aurelius' statement is a very good one of you are entitled to not have an opinion about something, that is okay. Certain things, it's not necessarily okay to not feel anything about it. But then ask yourself, how will you deal with that? How will you vent that opinion? What will you do? Right? Okay. Something that I have found very helpful is to choose when to care and when not to care. There was a time, and I'm using on purpose here the Twisby example because in my mind it is a lot more innocent than the Noodler's label stuff. There was a time I would have gotten super involved and swept up in that. But I know myself, and I know that what happens then is that I will start to check social media every couple of minutes, or maybe not every couple of minutes, but like every couple of hours to see what new developments there are and talk to someone about that and how ridiculous that is and this, that, and the other. But I think an important thing to ask yourself is, but what will that give you? If you find it super rewarding, I know those kinds of people. I know people who find it super rewarding to then go on forums and give entire legal overviews of why TWSBI cannot claim what it claimed or can claim what it claimed, whatever. They find that super interesting to completely dissect everything TWSBI has said and why that is legal or why not. If that is a hobby to you, if you find that interesting, well, then do it. For me, that's not a hobby. I find that very obnoxious. For me, I mean, right? Because I know myself, and I know that I then get a little obsessed, and then I can't stop talking about it and looking at it, and I don't want that. So I choose to not get involved. In the whole TWSBI thing's been going on for weeks. Yeah, a number of weeks now. I've not posted anything about it because I'm going to be brutally honest. I really could not care less about this issue. There is a lot going on in the world right now. I mean, there's a war in the Ukraine. I don't really care if a company claims that another company stole part of their design in fountain pens. We were talking nuclear bombs, then at this point maybe that would be a more relevant discussion, but I really don't care. I'm not saying it's not a valuable discussion to have. I'm not saying that one party is not right or not wrong, but for me to stay sane, I don't care about the piston. Again, that Noodler's label, that's a little different because that gets to an area where I can't not care. But even there, at the end of the day, this comes down to me, to the basic Stoic principle of some things are within my control, other things are not within my control. I will not change Noodler's. I will not change the Goulet Pen Company. What I do know is this. Noodler's has done something. There are people who were offended by it. The Goulet Pen Company decided to act in the way the Goulet Pen Company thought was best. Some people agree with that. Other people will disagree with that. Every single thing I've just said is outside of my control. I can't control Noodler's. I can't control the Goulet Pen Company. I can't control how people feel about the Goulet's decision. I can control how I feel about all this. And I told you I was not going to pick a side here, so I won't pick a side. I do know that I have certain feelings about this. And let me say this about that. If you're a regular watcher of my videos, viewer of my videos, sorry, been a long day, then you know I don't use Noodler's inks. So for me, nothing changes. Right? I mean, it's not that I'm going to stop using Noodler's inks. Maybe if I would use Noodler's inks, this would be a reason for me to say, yeah, I just can't support a company like that. I'm just thinking out loud. I'm still not saying I'm picking a side. I'm just saying that might be my reasoning. That is within my control. I could choose to post about this or not post about this. I've chosen, in this case, to post this video, where I try to make a general point, as opposed to saying, Noodler's was really wrong and this, that, and the other, or Goulet, how could you do? Nobody benefits, in my mind. It is within my control to form an opinion, to choose if I want to have an opinion about something, and if I do, what that opinion is. It is within my control to decide how I will deal with the repercussions of what has happened in this particular scenario. That is within my control. That's something I can do. By doing those kinds of things, by reasoning about things in that specific manner, you can mitigate the effects of drama. Now I come full circle. Drama is something many of us thrive on. It's the way it is. But I choose not to thrive on that. That is within my control. The whole thing with stopping about pen stuff for just a second. with the slap at the Oscars. I have an opinion about that, but it took me a lot of reasoning to come to that opinion, because I kind of see something of value in both sides, and I still kind of struggle with truly picking a side. But then Marcus Aurelius comes back in. It is okay not to have an opinion. I mean, at no point, believe it or not, at no point did I get a call from Will Smith saying, "Stephen, what do you think? Was I wrong?" It doesn't happen, people. So what does it matter at the end of the day how I feel about that? Now, the final thing I will say is that cannot translate into indifference. You cannot, shrug and you don't care about anything. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is be selective in what you care about. Not because you shouldn't care about things, but to guard your own mental tranquility. Because if you care an awful lot about everything, it is very likely that you will overload yourself and burn out, because you care very deeply about everything. And nobody can care super deeply about everything, because you only have so many cognitive resources, so many emotional resources. That's all I'm trying to say. It's been over 20 minutes, so I will stop now. I hope I have made my point. I hope that I've been clear. These kinds of topics are nuanced. That's why I want to be very careful in how I put things, and that's why I took my time to reason through the arguments I've given. Certainly have I not sought to offend anyone, and as I said, I haven't meant to pick sides in any of this. I'm just saying things happen, and how can you deal with those things when they happen? I hope that's been clear. Let me know your thoughts. Again, I'm not necessarily interested in having a discussion about who was right and who was wrong, and then they said this and they said that. I don't think that's valuable. But I certainly understand why people were upset about the nudeless thing. I do understand that. And again, there are people who are not upset too. And that's at the end of the day, that is their decision. And that's it. I hope this was clear. I hope this was useful. And I'm just a guy. I was just giving you my opinion. I'll gladly see you next time. Bye.